Welcome to episode 5 of Tales from the Rabbit Hole. I'm your host, Mick West. My guest today is Dan from California. Dan used to be a prepper, a survivalist, someone who thought that the world, or at least our current way of life, was about to end at any moment. When this didn't happen, and when he figured out that this was taking a toll on his life, Dan decided to drop the whole thing, and now he's a lot happier. So here's Dan. Dan, thank you very much for doing this.
Sure, thank you.
Welcome to the Tales from the Rabbit Hole podcast. I'm talking to you. I don't really know anything at all about you, but what happened was you left a comment on one of the podcast YouTube videos. It was the one with the ex-conspiracy theorist.
Right.
And you said, I'm just going to read what you wrote, if you don't mind.
Sure.
It says, I was exposed to the conspiracy theory mindset when I was 11 years old. I'm 52 now, and I realized at 49 none of those theories played out. It was all extreme speculation run amok. I no longer waste time with it, and I'm much happier. And I thought that was a bit of a fascinating comment, and it seemed like there was obviously an interesting story behind that.
Well, yeah.
So I was wondering if you could take us back to
Sure.
when you were 11 and what actually happened.
12. Yeah,
Okay.
at 11 or 12, I had my dad's brother, my uncle, would come home for the holidays and to share whatever book he was reading at the time. He was a real smart guy, college educated, this and that, and he read George Orwell's 1984.
Uh-huh.
And then after that, books about the CFR, the Trilateral Commission, Bilderbergs, all the usual suspects. And this was a frequent thing throughout my youth. So it was always a topic that I knew something about, even though it was just information from him. So I always knew of this, I hate to say Illuminati, but this other power structure going on as I grew up. And so there was always, the thing behind the thing, so to speak. But it didn't really have any effect on my behavior or outlook until 2008. All that other time was just, you hear things, learn things, whatever the case is. But it was in 2008, just prior to Obama being elected, there was an email that got sent out. And it just said something to the effect of when Obama is elected, there's going to be an event, and he will be forced to implement martial law for anywhere from 60 to 90 days. And this thing was about 25 pages long. It was really done well.
Wow.
And being of a conspiracy theory mindset anyway, and then getting a hold of this bit of information, that's when I started to act upon these things as far as becoming a prepper. I don't think they called it prepping back then. Became a prepper. Stocking foods, guns, bullets, all this kind of stuff, learning skills, this kind of thing. Where it is now, it's like the mindset was, okay, you know where this thing's going to end. So whatever you were doing before, you need to jettison that. Now you're going in this other direction, preparing for this inevitable bad thing. That's what at that point is when it actually affected my lifestyle. Whereas prior to that, it was just you hear of these things. Like I said, go back to my uncle. We talked about, there was always an economic collapse on the horizon, and these kinds of things. But it wasn't until 2008 where I actually acted upon it and said, just through fear, that, hey, you need to do something here. And I got my family involved, and, we stockpiled food, water, this kind of thing. And here it is. We're into Trump now, and we survived this Obama thing. None of that ever happened. Yeah. Matter of fact, some of those things that I stored up and locked away back then, I finally had to throw away. It's kind of, and I had at that point I had to take around 2000, I want to say 12 in there. The recession was going on, this and that, and I had to say, this why am I putting time in on this thing? And it's especially with YouTube. I mean, I can just eat these videos up. And I just said, this stuff isn't panning out. I'm not saying that it might not happen in the future. Things always, something could happen.
Yeah.
But for as much time as I've invested with concern, worry, whatever you want to call it, and really nothing ever happened. If I was picking race horses, I'd be the ultimate loser. But it was just the time and the effort put in, and spent thousands of dollars, preparing for these things and all that, I don't want to say it was a waste of time, but it was of no value.
Indeed, yeah. With prepping, I think in a way, like you're you're taking a little gamble on the future. I suppose there's nothing
You
wrong
are.
with being prepared, and I'm sure
Right,
you
nothing
still
wrong with being
have
prepared.
a reasonable level of preparation for things like natural disasters and whatnot.
Right.
Now, I mean, everyone should do that. And, something might have happened during your prepping years. There might have been a giant earthquake or something, and then you would have been glad. But these things are kind of few and far between, the things where you actually need things. So you had the idea, back in like the 2000s, that society was going to collapse during the Obama years.
More or less, yes.
And that it was going to be something deliberate done by the Illuminati, essentially, the
right?
powers that be, or whoever.
Yeah, well, whoever you could pick your favorite, group,
the
Illuminati or whatever the case is. But I actually believe, I've had friends here on YouTube where they think there's just one body of people, this cabal or whatever, and I could look at it now and say, well, there's many.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I know for a fact that there's a company, they're called Toyota Motor Company, and they will go out of their way to do anything and everything possible to get you to buy their product. They will market you. They will show you pretty pictures on the television and magazines, and they're doing everything they can to manipulate you to get you not to buy a Honda, but to buy a Toyota.
Mm-hmm.
And some will say, well, that's not the same thing. Well, yeah, but we have many groups like that. The left wants you to do what the left wants. The right wants you to do what the right wants, and whoever's pushing their buttons or whatever. Yeah. And so you get to the point where I just can't see one single group or two that runs everything, when I think everyone's trying to run everything. I don't think there's any one group that has this thing nailed down. If they did, they did a lousy job, because what that thing's turned out to plan so far.
Yes. Yeah, well, I always point out just how many billionaires there are in the world. If you look at the list of Forbes billionaires, and they're just so diverse. You've got like a whole bunch in China, you've got a bunch in Russia, you've got a bunch in America, a lot in America. Right. You got them in the UK and France, Europe, Australia, New Zealand. Billionaires all around the world, and they're all doing different things, and they're all in different industries.
And we can't assume that every billionaire is this evil, man behind the curtain. I mean, some are just very successful.
Yeah, some were lucky to get their billions.
Lucky, whatever.
They invented something that turned out to be really useful, like
like
Skype, or
like what we're doing right here.
Yeah. Yeah. So, like back in say 2008, what were the types of conspiracy theories, like, other than just a general idea that the government was plotting this big economic shift in the future? Would you believe other things as well?
I believed other things. Like there was maybe, I was a hardcore fan of Art Bell for all those years. When he was going on, and you had I never bought into you looked at all the, I think it was Major Ed Dames or something. Every, next year, this is it, this thing's over. Right. And he had that many years. I accepted a lot of these things, like maybe there was an Illuminati, or maybe it was the Jews, or maybe it's the this or that. I kind of accepted that, but it wasn't until I got this one email where this was going to affect me. This was actually going to touch me. But those other things, I really can't control any of that, even if it were true. Mm-hmm. If there is this cabal somewhere, what can I do?
Something that
them.
You grew up with was that kind of belief that there was a powerful group of people controlling the world.
I grew up in the Cold War. So I was 1985 is when I graduated from high school, and Reagan and all that, with the fear of nuclear holocaust and all this kind of thing. And so you just kind of get numb to this kind of stuff. But it wasn't, like I said, it wasn't until I got that random email, and which got me to act, say, this could affect me here. This is something that could, if this happens, this is going to happen here, and this is going to affect me. Where that had, it took my level from concern to fear. Like, okay, if you don't do something and this does happen, you're in a bad way. So that was a real motivator for me. But as far as other conspiracies, having been at this stuff for so long, it's more of just like like some kid reads a comic book series and just keeps going with it and going with it, going with it. Well, there's so many different things that happens in every magazine that you just keep. To me, it was just an ongoing thing. So I never locked into any one thing, whether it was this or that or the other, kind of deal. So I can't nail down any one conspiracy theory that really had me wrapped up.
Yeah. Were there conspiracy theories back then that you thought were just a bit too ridiculous? Like, there's things like
reptilians.
Reptilians, obviously, that's at the far end of the spectrum. Yeah. David
Then we
Icke.
had a lot of the I think it was, and it might be some of the other than major names. I think there was Hoagland did a lot of stuff too. That when you start dealing with planets, meteorites, asteroids, this kind of stuff, it's like, okay, if that happens, what are you going to do? I mean, how much? Even if they said it's coming tomorrow, okay, but whatever. You can't stop it. There's nothing you can. So you just it's so extreme that you just quit right off the get go. Okay, if that happens, it happens. Whatever. I'm not going to invest any time in that.
Right. So, like, say, chemtrails, for example, was that something you paid attention to?
Chemtrails. We're right next to an airport here, and I've always worked around an airport, and I'm here in the Central California. You can see the sky most of the time.
Right.
And chemtrails, contrails, whatever you call it, I've grown up around them my whole life. Until they started calling them chemtrails. Originally, I thought, hey, there's something to this. Wow, this is. But as you get a little older, a little wiser, you realize, I don't see the profit in this. I just don't see how you're going to, and just like I think you guys spoke on before, how are you going to keep all these people quiet? And I have friends that are pilots, commercial pilots, and they just laugh. I mean, I have a better idea. Instead of us flying over your house and spraying it, why don't I just get you to drive in somewhere to a drive-in and eat our food? That's how I'm going to poison you.
I mean, poison.
And it's already, food's a bunch of crap, so it'd be far more effective, and you would pay me for it. Why would I spend time spraying you from thousands, 10 to 30,000 feet, not knowing where it's going to land and all this kind of thing? That doesn't, and I don't see the profit in it. For the amount of expense of the chemtrail, and then what the profit is, I don't get it. I don't buy into that.
I think the theory that they have now is that it is some kind of geoengineering, like they're trying to change the climate to either prevent global warming or fake global warming. It's not entirely clear what they're saying.
But even then, most of the time, if you're going to do something that's for the good, you tell people about it. Why would you do it secretly? Hey, I'm trying to save the world. Don't tell anybody. Yeah. That's not gonna,
And apparently they've been doing it for like 50 years or so. The further back you go.
I have friends that are crop dusters, and even they would say this is very ineffective. Very ineffective.
Yeah, I mean,
if that's what they were doing.
Crop dusting, you have to do it close to the ground, obviously. Because you got to get right on it. You spray things that are way up there that are just going to come down it
ends up in Kansas,
thousands of miles away.
Right.
Yeah. What about, say, 9/11? There's a whole broad number of conspiracies around 9/11.
9/11, I got caught up in that, especially with the Zeitgeist, or Zeitgeist, however you guys say that.
Zeitgeist, I think.
Zeitgeist, yeah. I think most of this at the time, let me point something out. I'm speaking up for myself. But everyone's known, maybe you had a girlfriend or your wife or friend or something that like to go to horror movies, scary movies. I don't like to be scared. But I've had girlfriends, they just love that. Just love something about it. And I think what happens when we get into these topics, especially when dealing with YouTube videos, and I had to ask myself, why do I watch this stuff? Even when I know it doesn't play out most of the time. Why am I watching this? Well, it brings up it alters my state. It brings up an emotion in me, which is anxiety, anxiousness. And I guess I like that. Okay. So when you see something like Zeitgeist or this kind of thing, that really freaked me out when I first saw it. And so it's like, whoa. But this was like a horror movie. This thing really, oh, man. And over time, I'm looking back, I'm thinking, when the claims that they've made, I'm thinking, over time, I'm looking back, I don't think so. I kind of bought into it originally, but I'm like, I don't think you can get, once again, you're going to get that many people on the same page. The timing's got to be perfect. Too many people involved. You just can't, someone would have spoke of something by now. I set the bombs or this kind of stuff. And I can't, I don't give any time for it now.
That's really interesting, the analogy you drew there with the horror movies. Like it's some kind of like visceral response that your brain just squirts out some chemicals that your body kind of enjoys in a way, like a roller coaster ride.
Right. If you look at let's say I watch a lot of YouTube videos. If you're an inspirational speaker and you actually inspire people with your words, people like that. And they're going to watch your videos and support your videos and buy your T-shirts or whatever you got going on.
Because it makes them feel good.
Makes them feel good.
It's not just
something out of it. It's an emotional
yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
Same thing if you look at SHTF videos. I used to watch this stuff all the time. SHTF scenarios or coming collapse
videos, like
survivalist type stuff.
Shit hits the fan.
For me, it brought out that for me it was anxiousness. The emotion, the state, my mental state that it was preying upon was this anxiety, this fear, and it was like hit me with like a ton of bricks one day. I'm like, that's why I'm watching this stuff. I already know that this meteor's not going to hit her tomorrow. There's not an EMP happening tomorrow, or some of these, all these wild speculative things. But why am I still watching this? I know most of this is baloney because I got that horror movie effect.
And do you think like prepping and preparing for it almost is like the opposite type of thing? It's giving you a sense of security.
A sense of security. But remember, most of these things will give you originally, once you think about it, gives you a sense of hopelessness. And how do you fight hopelessness? You do something. So what do you get? Well, I better prepare. At least I have this. I've done this part. Most guys want to act. When they get information, they want to act upon it.
Yeah.
See, so, and I think, like I said, nothing wrong with prepping. I have a lot of friends here on YouTube.
I'm
preppers, this and that. And, but I know for me, I said, speaking for myself, once I realized what the recipe was, certain channels I watched a lot, and they had the most extreme data. Like, okay, it's going to be bad. It's coming soon. It's imminent. Whatever the thing was, collapse or whatever. It's right on the, we're right on the edge of this thing. It's any time now. These guys would have 500,000 subscribers and get 50,000 views by noon, and I was one of them. And if you look at the comments, I would be willing to bet that 50% of people that support this channel, these views, are people like me that were getting off on this anxiousness kind of thing. And so I have other friends that have channels, good, honest people, genuine people, but they don't push the extremes. They got 5,000 subscribers, they get 2,000 views, and they're not tapping into the people like me that become addicted to this kind of thing. See, so you get this whole emotional thing. So it's not healthy. That's really not healthy for someone like who is in my situation. See,
I can see that. I do some like flat Earth debunking videos, and mine are kind of sober. Here's the facts type things. Right. And then there's other people who do flat Earth debunking videos, and they're all like, you're an idiot. This guy doesn't know what he's talking about. What a moron! And here I'll explain what the thing is. And they're much more emotional.
Exactly.
They get way more views than I do, because I just stick to the science. And
well, it's if you're going to get big, you have to push that button. Now, chances are, it's maybe not be your thing. It's not my thing. I don't want to be followed by a bunch of people that are a little unhinged, like myself. But if you're going to do that kind of a top, just like I said, if you're going to do inspirational speaking, you need to push that button, inspire those people. That's a positive thing. But when you're doing SHTF, apocalypse, this kind of stuff, collapse, that's not a positive thing. It's a negative deal from the get-go. And you have to push that negative button in those people. And the more extreme you do it, the more participation you get. Yeah. Well, there's people out here that have figured out the recipe, and that's what they do. They play it up. If an event happens today and it's on a level of 5, they push you to 11 and get the crowd fired up, and people just go for it.
Yeah, there's a lot of this is it.
This is it.
It's happening.
Right. And videos. It doesn't matter if you're completely wrong. You can make all the wild speculation you want, predictions, and if you fall flat on your face, someone who, like me, when you push my button, I'll forgive you for that. I'll watch the next video. We'll go back in again. Push my button. See, once I realized that about this topic, about whether it's conspiracy theory or this coming collapse or whatever, it really ticked me off. I'm like, man, I'm getting played here. So it's I have to look at things, and the if I say nothing else, the most important thing is if you lock into these things and let them affect your state of mind, you basically get a bad attitude. You cannot maintain a good attitude, at least someone like me, when you're bringing all this information in, this bad news, coming collapse, warnings, concerns. And so you end up with a perspective about your world is very, to me, I think it's damaged at this point, because you just look at everything from that Conspiracy theory becomes your filter, or SHTF collapse preparedness becomes your filter for everything. I mean, if you go back to like 2010, 11, I was full on into this stuff. There were financial opportunities that came my way that I avoided because I said, well, I don't think the system is going to be available. I don't think currency is going to be around for another year or two. Right. And I passed over some great opportunities. And you tend to start segregating yourself from, we'll just call it normal society, because, well, they're not awake yet. They don't know what's going on. We're just not going to spend time. So you start segregating yourself from that, and you can get into some really dark place. For me, it just gave me a really bad attitude.
Did it affect your relationships with like other people that you worked with or that you met? People that you knew.
Yeah. As far as no, because I knew if you tell too many people this, they'll think you're crazy. So right. And then my family, they've always known about this stuff. Okay. So it is not. I never. It was never a thing where I probably spent less time. I'm kind of reclusive anyway. I do retail as part of my life, and then I go home. I'm at home by myself, animals and all this stuff. I raise cattle. So I've never wanted to really go out of my way to create a new circle of friends. So I can't really judge that. As far as has it affected my social life? I don't know.
Did you feel like you were part of an online community? Were there people online that you would chat with about this?
Oh, yeah. I've actually made some pretty good friends online through these topics. Yeah, I've been doing this since 2008, as far as being active on YouTube. But yeah, since 2008, I've made some actually pretty good friends. They don't all agree with me. And I've had some other friends, too, that were just like me as far as during the Obama years, how things are going to get bad, this and that have pretty much left the topic. They do other things now. They've gone into hobbies. It's like they grew out of it. Kind of like in my situation. It's like, I'm 52. I don't know how many years I have left. I want to get the most out of it. And I'm not going to waste it burning it up on this stuff.
Yeah, I'm 52 too, so I have the same. When you talked
same
about
aches and pains.
Yeah, when you talked about the aches and pains, I know what you're talking about there. When you're talking about the Cold War, I remember growing up in the 80s, and there were things like the Star Wars program and with Reagan and the threat of nuclear war back then. And
now, where were you?
I was in the UK when I grew up.
Okay, I do, because I was at Australia at one time at that time, and I have to assume the news you guys got was different than the news that we got, because I had friends that were from the UK and they say, "Hey, we're hearing this, this, and this."
Yeah.
Well, we're hearing it. We were hearing a different. It's more of a fear. Oh, this guy Reagan's crazy. He's falling asleep at the wheel. Whereas we didn't hear a whole lot of that over here. My friends in Australia surely did. They were scared to death.
There was some of that in the UK. There was quite a lot of people who made fun of him. There was a famous satirical puppet show back in the 80s called Spitting Image. And they had a segment every week, which was the president's brain is missing, where they would make fun of the latest things that he said. So we were definitely aware that there was questions about Reagan back then. So like the people that you met online, that you grew to be friends with online, are there some now who are still in that conspiracy mindset that you still talk to?
Oh yeah, I have people I subscribed to way back then. I still subscribe to now, because they were small. They're still like small channel people, a couple thousand subs, and I support them. But whereas if their video comes across my screen, it's just another title about this collapse or how to prep what. I don't necessarily, okay, that's my friend doing his thing. He's still doing that or whatever. And I don't wish them any harm. That's they got to do what they think is right. But I just don't participate like I used to. But most of the big the channels that knew how to push my button to get me involved, I'm done with all those. I don't want to go anywhere near that because it's still entertaining for me. You put up a good title, a good warning kind of thing. It's still that scary movie. I might want to see it and get caught up or whatever.
Do you feel like you might get sucked back in again if you watched a few videos?
No, it goes back to the same. There's a little bit of a discipline. When I was going through all this, probably about 2012, 13, I'm a Christian, okay, and trying to follow the teachings of Jesus. And a good part of that, if you look at if it took me a while to figure this out, if you look at the attitude that my faith wanted me to have, and then the attitude that I was creating over here in this scary world kind of thing.
Yeah.
Two different things. So wait a minute, how am I going to walk this thing out when I'm constantly getting myself all jacked up over here kind of deal? So that was another part of it too, where it's like, you got to, you have no choice but to separate yourself from this, because you're getting too emotionally involved in this stuff, which messes up your attitude. And now you're off the path again, so to speak.
That's interesting.
So that was, bad attitude.
How long do you think your transition took? You said like was around, when was it you started kind of having doubts about it?
Well, as far as I can't give you exact dates, but probably around, I'm going to say 2000. Well, actually, I was pretty good for a while. They're kind of staying out of this stuff. We're watching certain videos. I'm not going to watch those videos anymore. It's going to be a bad attitude. Then the ISIS thing started to rock and roll again. And there was a 4th of July coming up. And this had to be, I think, 14 or 15. Might have been 2014. And that kind of got me wound. I might have, keep my eye on this.
Right.
This might be something that, feel here at home. And kind of got caught up in it again. I started making videos myself. So let's say 14, 15. And then realize that, this is just a repeat. You're doing it all over again. You're caught up in this thing. Yeah, it's been entertaining. But here you go. You got this bad attitude going again. Miserable outlook. The future's not bright. And this kind of thing. And then that affects everything else that you do. Bad attitude. That's just terrible. So, so that would be probably by 15. I'm like, yes, we're done with this. You can't. You got to stop doing this again. And that's probably at that point is when I realized I'm getting my buttons pushed here. Okay, why do I go back to this stuff? Yeah, there were some very compelling events that happened. Like I said, ISIS was just starting to rock and roll, and there were threats of some terrorist attacks possibly happening here. But I said, what is it? It's that horror movie, anxiety thing going again, that you want to be scared, whatever it is, something that I liked, obviously, that drew me back into this thing or kept me in it. And I realized, okay, you gotta just divorce yourself from this. We're not getting anywhere, and it's affecting everything else that I'm doing. You get a bad attitude.
The bad attitude thing. It's very interesting. It's like it's making you like kind of a toxic personality in a way. Right. Like you say, you're a lot happier now, and you seem like a happy person just talking to you. Sure. Would you say you were really angry or like suspicious?
No, it's how would you put it? More of a I don't want to say depression, because that's a pretty powerful thing. I've never really been a depressed person, but it was like almost like living a countdown, and so you had this extra weight of this extra stress on you.
Right.
And so when other people were having, they call them the sheeple out there. Oh, look, they're all happy and. Because they don't know what's going on. Well, I started saying, well, these people are happy, whether they know what's going on or not. And I'm over here miserable. I don't think I actually have treated people poorly, but I did not, just like you said, oh, you seem like a pretty happy person. I probably did seem like a very happy person then. Just an extra added, it put a lot of stress on me. Okay, and you met people that are really burdened with stress. They're not that much fun to be around. Yeah. It impacted things, but in a subtle way.
Yeah, so it changed your outlook on life, really. Like,
right. Definitely.
You were living on the edge, like you felt like there's this sense of impending doom all the time. Now, some people might say that having a bad attitude or this sense of impending doom is not a good reason to stop believing in things, because you're just doing it to feel good, and that's almost like you wanting to be a sheeple because you think sheeples are happier. Great point. Put your head in the sand. Yeah. How would you respond to that? Well, I have to speak for myself. I know some people that can do the scare video and they're prepared for it, and they go out and have a wonderful life, or so they say. Not me. I just took it real serious. If someone said that this thing is going to happen, it's really soon, and another guy says that, hey, you need to get prepared for that, I don't have time for idle chit chat and these kind of things. So all of a sudden I'm getting geared up for this thing. Meanwhile, everyone else around me is going on about their day like nothing's up. Right. And so I'm a square peg in a round hole all of a sudden. And so if someone says, well, you can't just ignore these things. Well, I'm not choosing. I'll be honest. I am ignoring these things because the effect on me was so dramatic. Right. I want more out of myself. These fear videos, I'll call them. I can't control any of these things. I have no impact on these things whatsoever. I watched a video today of a friend that's talking about, they're going to come take our guns.
Big fear about taking the guns. Well, maybe they will. Who knows? What are you going to do when they come take your guns? I'll probably give it to them, because I don't want to end up in jail or shot where the case is. I've lived with that again before. I can do it again. No big deal. But these people, that's blasphemy. The important thing for me is, one is my faith and my family. It always goes back to your faith and family. And these other things were affecting my faith and my family. So I have to make a decision. What's more important? Well, yeah, but what about fighting for the Constitution? You know what? It'll have to fight on its own. I got my faith and family to deal with first. And if I've got all that in control, then maybe I could go outside of it. But that's the important thing for me.
Yeah. Well, I think you mentioned earlier, I mean, it's not just, wanting to feel better. It's also you saw these things not coming true.
Right.
After a while. So you do it for years and years and nothing ever happened with Obama supposedly doing this reset or whatever. Yeah, it didn't happen.
I was no fan of Obama, but for what was being warned, none of that happened. And so it was, as a speculator, I did a terrible job.
So why do you think it is that, these predictions keep being made over decades, and pretty much none of it ever comes true? We don't have FEMA camps, we don't have the UN taking over.
Right, FEMA camps, great example. You have a new generation of kids coming up. Because here's the thing, I've been at these type of videos for 10 years, and I've watched people that are from back then that are still in it, and I've watched people that have came in and phased out. They left it. But there's a new batch coming in. Now, the ones that phase out kind of, I think, end up like me, where they said, this kind of sucks. This is not a topic that makes me happy. What am I working for? Okay, yeah, something bad may happen. We'll do what we can. But meanwhile, I need to enjoy my day. I need to enjoy my family. I'm working for something. This is no way to live my life. And I've had a lot of friends that were subscribers to my channel that just kind of, I just got tired of the whole negative thing. And they stopped watching. They went off and did something else. Like I have. So it's
you think it's an age thing? Like you go through a certain period in your life, like your 20s, 30s or whatever?
Well, I don't know about that, because, I mean...
Come out?
Yeah, that I do, because I see people of all ages and that kind of thing. But just say new people. I shouldn't necessarily newer generation, but although it may be an age group, there's new people coming on all the time. I would think it just depends on what. And there's another thing too, is many of the bad things to be concerned at, they're just repeated again. It's just another, just like if the world population issue. I mean, I have several books. I did a long story, but I think it was Ehrlichman or whatever. Had 19. We weren't supposed to get to the 80s, and now the same thing is being rehashed. And there's more people now that we're not going to make it. We've got the 12-year window or something going on now, and it's just the rehash an old thing again. And people, once again, they're pushing the buttons.
Yeah.
I really think if you look at it, if I can alter your state, if you understand how used cars are sold, you really get the whole thing. But if I can push your button for whatever anxiety, whatever state it is I want to put you in to participate in what I have, I just got to find that button, and then I got to push that thing like there's no tomorrow. I think that's what a lot of this is.
Yeah.
We see it in politics, we see it in all these things, but they just we're preying on each other's emotions all the time. And it's for manipulation, I want you to buy my Toyota. I want you to buy our soda product or whatever it is. But I think a lot of this stuff, once you understand the recipe, and really, a lot of these people are making good money on YouTube. Okay? I mean, not to pick on anyone, but are you going to watch Alex Jones and get a positive, feel-good message? It won't sell. It's not what the program's about. And I'm not knocking the guy. I had no problem with the guy. But if you're not going to get things don't seem that bad today. It might be stable for a while. I think things are going to be okay. Let's talk about the weather. That's not going to happen. Every show's the last show, because that's how they push the button to get you to participate. I'm sure you've been attacked by these people, and they are serious. Well, how do you get those people fired up? You got to push their buttons.
Yeah, they're very, very serious. I mean, they think it's the most important thing ever. Well, it's strange, like some of the more vocal people actually being the people who, there's people like the 9/11 people and stuff like that, but the UFO people have been some of the more vocal. people in terms of attacking me because they think it's this super important thing that the government is covering up these aliens, alien bases or whatever. And they think disclosure is going to be the big change in the world.
Right.
It's a different type of thing, but it's still the same feelings, I think.
Yeah. When your ox gets gored, it's a big deal. It's when the thing that you're invested in.
Yeah.
That's just they're gonna fight back. I had a thing at one time where it was the wolf crowd, people that were wanting to save the wolves, wolfery to protection, this and that. And I had a lot of friends that were trappers, legal trappers, and you didn't make a comment or something like that. But I think out of all the crowds, even the flat Earth guys are kind of tough, but no one could hold a candle to the save the wolf crowd. Man, they're tough.
Yeah,
they were tough. So I just finally said, you know what? I'm not going to get these conversations. I can't win. These guys are vicious.
Fascinating stuff. I always kind of felt that there was kind of a demographic bulge of young people coming in and coming out. But it's interesting you say that you think it's all kinds of different ages. You think it takes a certain amount of time for people to kind of work through these things?
I think if you look at like what brings a person to it, I think the videos, the production is so much better now. Before, I'm a guy in my car. I'm in the Honda Civic here, spitting out something on the internet here. But now the production of these things are so much better, and they're well done, and they're believable and compelling. And you share it rapidly. You push a button on your phone. Now everyone on your list gets to see it.
Yeah.
And some of those people it's their button, man. You just push their button and they're in. So I really don't know if it's any more complicated than that.
Yeah, that's something in my book, Escaping the Rabbit Hole. I talk about how YouTube is responsible for a lot of the conspiracy.
Oh yeah, big time.
And it's almost kind of like a mainlining type thing. It just gets the stuff into them a lot faster than before. Whereas
you go direct.
Yeah, like you had your uncle when you were young, and he was probably going by books and radio shows and things like that.
He didn't do a lot of radio shows. He was I think by his own description, what they call a hard money economist. This is a fiat economy we have here, so they want to go back to a gold-based economy and silver. Yeah. He was one of those guys that bought gold and silver and all that. And so most of his stuff was about a collapse or government, tyrannical government type of thing. And it was from, there weren't a lot of radio shows. There weren't, like, even back then, I don't think Art Bell was going on yet. So it was basically newsletters. He got a lot of newsletters.
Oh, really?
And yeah, guys that would, that was the big deal back then. Mailing list. You get on a mailing list and they send you their newsletter. And he would have stacks of these things and just read them. And it was basically the same. That was their YouTube then. See, this for that topic.
The late 70s, early 80s.
Late 70s, early 80s.
Yeah. And they would subscribe to your newsletter. That's kind of a meme joke now. Like if someone has really interesting ideas, you say, very interesting, I would like to subscribe to your newsletter. But people actually did that back then in the early 80s. They actually had newsletters.
Make sure you put a stamp on it.
Yeah, and you'd get things through the mail and you'd read them. It was a very slow pace.
Yeah.
But in some ways,
you can imagine?
It was.
I mean, back then you heard about stuff. I mean, here we are instantaneous. A big event could take weeks before you heard about it. Especially something in the Middle East or something like that. Weeks before we'd get a hold of it. And it was only from one or two sources. Now you got people on the ground. That's amazing.
Yeah, I think it's interesting you do get the same types of conversations though, like in these newsletters as you do in like internet chat rooms, even though it just takes so much longer to happen. I did a bit of research into the history of the Flat Earth movement, and it was back in the late 1880s when it was going on. And they had discussions in the letters columns of newspapers. And you can read these letters going back and forth between people. And it's just like people chatting on Facebook. Someone will say,
it's extremely slow.
Yes. Yes,
but it's great for the economy because you had to deploy the guy with the donkey and everything else, the transport and everything else.
Yeah. But it kind of shows that these are kind of universal type things that people like to have these little dribs of information, and now you're getting them in much more of a torrent.
And I think that's affected us. I think that's affected us because you could get a constant stream of this stuff, whereas before, I mean, you go back then, it was everything was very slow. But even now, with so many people, even when I started on YouTube myself, I think it was 2000, about 2007, 2008. But even from then to now, because before I could watch a video and I'd have to take my laptop, get on online, and if I want to show it to someone, I had to take him the laptop. Mm-hmm. Hey, check this out. or I don't even know if I had links going on back then, but it was much slower. But now, with everyone has a phone, my mother has a phone, I could, ship her something right now instantaneously, she could see it. And once again, if I could push that button, it's phishing. This person might participate in what I have.
Because it's quicker,
I think that's what power is.
People have a lot less time to think about it. I think if you're composing a letter to a newspaper, then it's very, very different from just like typing a response to someone on Facebook. Right. So that shortening of the cycle of responding to people is very different.
There's no time to marinate.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's probably an important thing. I sometimes try to
look at Twitter.
I try to not respond to things sometimes, especially if it's late at night. I'll say, I'll let this one. I'll sleep on this one. And see what happens in the morning. So you had your own YouTube channel?
Yeah, it's just me. It's Seller559. It's just me. Whatever I raise cattle. I have rescue dogs and cats. I just bought a dirt bike. I talk a little bit about the Bible. Sometimes I get off into politics a little bit. But basically, for me, YouTube is just a way. I had certain friends that had channels, and we would just communicate back and forth. We were just making videos back and forth. I have like 700 or 800 subscribers. I'm not a big channel or anything like that. Yeah. But I'm not. You can't say, well, what's your channel about? Well, it's just about me. So whatever I'm dealing with that day or whatever. Before, when I started out, I was a prepper channel, and a couple years ago, when I said, okay, that's enough of that, I made all my videos private. Right. I probably had 600 or 700 videos in a short amount of time that were just about prepping, coming collapse, and all this stuff. And so when I made this decision, okay, I'm done with this, I just shut all that stuff down as well. And now the channel is just where it was a prepper channel at one time. It's not now. It's just whatever I'm doing.
Well, I guess that kind of reflects your own interests, because the channel is just about you and what you're thinking about. Before you were thinking about prepping all the time, and now you've got time to think about other things like your family, your faith, and your animals.
Right. I'm happier. I don't know if I'm getting far less views, but I'm happier. Not selling anything, so it really doesn't matter.
So, are you going to do anything going forward with this type of thing, prepping or conspiracies or anything like that? You got any plans to do it, or is it just basically something that's out of your life now?
Well, I learned a lot of skills about prepping. You cannot unlearn skills. Okay. I do, like I said, I do raise cattle. Occasionally you run out of water, a pump goes down or something. So you have to be prepared for, instances where something like that happens. I've always been a bulk buyer of food. Okay. I don't hoard stuff like I did before. I'm still a guns and bullets guy. I always like to shoot. But I'm not getting rid of that. So as far as, but I'm not promoting like you need these things or whatever. I'm having more fun now. I figure physically my window, I might have another 6-7 years before I'm just too crippled up to do anything. So that's why I got the dirt bike. We're gonna go for broke. I'm just having fun now. So it's and I have my niece has 3 little boys from 4 to a couple of months. I just love them to death. Spend time with them all the time and all that. And so as far as anything prepper wise, SHTF or collapse or conspiracy theory, that's something I used to do. It's just not something I'm interested in anymore. So as far as me, can't see myself going back to that.
Yeah.
You
did watch the video though, the ex-conspiracy theorist. What kind of drew you to see that?
Well, I originally saw you on Rogan's deal. I thought that seems like a reasonable guy, so I signed up for your channel, and I saw the thing you did with the a UFO.
Oh yeah. Yeah,
and I filmed a thing like that, for my mom, and she totally got freaked out over that. But as far as if it's a good topic, even if it's an SHT, if it seems like something reasonable, I'll check it out. But I'm not. Most of the time, I'm like, oh, this guy's pumping fear, this guy's pushing the buttons. Okay, this is not my thing, Or if it's a friend of mine, I might have a decent sized channel that he's got some topic that I might look at. Where are they going today? Sometimes I watched a video this morning. Where are these guys going today? And now they're pushing this gun fear thing or whatever. Like, okay, whatever. I can't wait to get on my bike. It's not. I've invested my time in that. I just don't want to go into I'm not drawn to it like I was before. Once I realized they were pushing my buttons, that just kind of killed the whole thing for me. So, and I don't mean that they did it intentionally, but I was I was that little girl at the scary movie that likes to be scared, and that just took all the umph out of it.
Yeah, you get people get addicted to these things.
Oh yeah,
almost in a physical way, I think. because you do get that kind of response. The things your brain secretes, the endorphins, when you get the thrill
Alters
of
your
being
state.
scared. Yeah.
That's what marketing is. Altering someone's state. Buy that Toyota. Okay, it might not be a negative thing, but
yeah. All right. Well, this has been very interesting. Very interesting.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you want to talk about, or anything we've covered?
The one thing I'll say is just protect your attitude. Whatever you're into, whether you're into conspiracy theories or knitting with cat fur or whatever the thing is, inspirational, protect your attitude, because I see it so much more now at my age that I didn't notice before. If you or someone else alters your attitude, it's affecting everything else that you do. And if you want to get the most out of what you're doing, you want to be all there. You want to be in your best mindset to do it. And don't think that, well, I can listen to this, weird music here, whatever, it doesn't affect you. Everything affects our attitude. So if you want to live your best life, you got to have the best attitude for it. And I don't think we protect that enough. We should be more careful of what we let in. See, and that would be the only, I think, is advice I'd give people. You got to have the right attitude, and you got to protect that.
Yeah, that's great. That's great advice. Well, thank you very much, Dan.
Mick West, thank you.
Yeah, it's been very interesting. You've been listening to episode 5 of Tales from the Rabbit Hole. Coming up in episode 6, we talk to a man called Tim Osman. At least that's the name he goes by. Tim thinks 9/11 was an inside job, but he spends a lot of time debunking the Flat Earth conspiracy theory. Interesting chap. Coming up in episode 6.